Adventure Time, from the very beginning, was no stranger to involving its main character in romance plots, starting with Finn and Bubblegum, then the major shift over to Flame Princess and Incendium, and ending the show with Finn and Huntress Wizard, though they aren't technically a couple by the end of the show. One of the aspects of Adventure Time I appreciate the most is how we see Finn grow up and how we see the events of the story shape who he is by the end of it. And one of the things that defines who Finn is as the story progresses is his love life. While he had 2 romantic interests before the episode I'll be talking about, I want to look at Flute's spell because of how it characterizes both Finn and his endgame love interest, Huntress Wizard, a character I wish we got to spend more time with. Before really getting into the episode in question, I think it's important to point out what Finn has been through up to this point. He's been hurt and has hurt people he's been romantically involved with. He's had to come to terms with loss and pain, specifically with everything that has to do with his dad and his arm. And right before this episode, he has to go through the events of Hall of Egress. All of this has forced Finn to mature and develop. I think that it's important that this episode happens right after Hall of Egress, specifically showing that while he may have had to egress from his innocent child self, he still has his hang-ups about what he's done and what has happened to him, such as manipulating Flame Princess in Frost and Fire. In my opinion, it's the events of this episode that enable Finn to apologize to Flame Princess, or I guess the new Flame King, because after this episode, he has, for the most part at least, moved on to another person and can fully view that situation for what it is and apologize for the sake of doing right by her and himself, not for the sake of getting back with Phoebe. While it might seem kind of off topic to bring that up, I believe that apology is one of the biggest moments in the show, displaying how much Finn has grown over the course of the show. While Finn has grown and healed from a lot of his own mental baggage, something to take away from this episode is that he doesn't quite trust himself to be romantically involved with anyone yet, or at least that some of what he's done is still weighing on him. From pursuing Princess Bubblegum despite her not being interested, then having to give up when he's finally given the chance and too young, to hurting Phoebe in Frost and Fire, and then playing with so many women's hearts in Breezy. All of that combined leads to Finn being quite apprehensive and outright denying his feelings for HW throughout this episode. As for the events of the episode in question, Finn's disappeared for 2 weeks and Jake is just living life after getting mad at a game and finally goes to see where his brother disappeared off to after Shelby makes the block hot, telling him he's hanging out with a new lady friend. When he finds him, he sees Finn playing his flute to Huntress Wizard, but she seemingly rejects him. Jake, thinking his bro got rejected again, tries to console Finn. Finn clears it up that he's just helping her find someone. I find this moment funny, but it also shows just how much Jake cares for Finn, instantly wanting to console him. But I think it would also be funny if he did it to talk Finn off of doing something crazy again, remembering he built a tower to space when he lost his arm. So he might be trying to get to him before he goes off the deep end again. But Jake always has cared for Finn and taken his side and tried to console him at every opportunity, and I really appreciate that. I love a good sibling dynamic in the shows I watch. Finn explaining how he and Huntress Wizard met is also pretty funny, because it feels like such a fantasy romance. Finn, butt-ass naked, playing his flute in the river, and Huntress Wizard comes by, having been drawn in by the sound of the flute. If this was an anime, the genders would have been swapped. Also, there was very classic Adventure Time banter in this episode, with Finn getting threatened to have an arrow shot up his nose, and Finn retorts by saying he fights better naked. This feels like season 1 and 2 banter. Ending the flashback with Huntress Wizard saying Finn's what she's been looking for is good foreshadowing for the end of the episode, reinforced by Jake poking at Finn after the flashback. It's also funny that Jake, throughout this episode, is constantly calling Finn out on his BS about not being there to get Huntress Wizard's attention. And then we got the sleeping like a log gag. These are the jokes, people. When the 3 of them go out to hunt for the Thunderboard and make Finn a new flute, HW pretty much gets Finn high. This man was tripping on acid water so that he could be immune to electricity. Despite not getting nearly as many episodes as I'd hoped for with Huntress Wizard, This episode does some really great setup for her character, specifically through the spirit of the forest, the person she's been trying to find appearing in front of Finn during his acid trip and explaining why she couldn't find him. Her biggest problem is that she can't see the forest for the trees. She's too focused on the end goal, disregarding how to properly get there. She's a huntress. She hunts her prey, and in this case, that would be her searching for the spirit of the forest. She won't be able to find him until she takes a step back and sees everything as it is, letting off of the tireless pursuit and just enjoying the experience. It seems like another part of the equation that was missing is that HW wouldn't open herself to others, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Finn wakes up after the spirit asks him to put a sword through his chest. Crazy request from somebody you don't know, but this could be a way to show that Finn is willing to go that far for her, backed up by him saying, "I'll do it to help Huntress Wizard." Then he wakes up, gets an electric eel dropped on him, and then they go out for a boar hunt. At this point, we get the first crack in both of their shells where they hold hands longer than they needed to when Huntress Wizard helps Finn get up, but HW walks off telling Finn to stay focused while Finn smiles. After this, Finn stops being walled off and seems to be coming to terms with his feelings for her. This is mostly off the back of Jake prodding at Finn during the boar hunt when he says he can mostly smell Finn, to which Finn says he's joking in that he smells fine. Now, for the major part of this episode, Huntress Wizard carves the boar tusk, Finn starts playing, and unsurprisingly, it doesn't work. HW is about to give up, but Jake interjects, telling them to duet. Finn is visibly embarrassed, but Huntress Wizard seems excited. I also like that instead of playing the boar flute she just carved, she plays Finn's flute that he's had since season 1. The duet these two have shows their chemistry as people as well as their musical talents. Them playing together works and summons the spirit of the forest. My interpretation of this is that it finally works because Huntress Wizard took her focus off of him and was just playing to have fun, but to be specific, have fun with Finn, someone she has opened her heart to and expressed some amount of emotional connection to, despite acting like she has to be alone, something Jake says is dumb. This man has the most stable relationship in the show, so I would take his advice. She says she's ready to come back to him. I can't tell if this is supposed to be taken as a mentor-student situation like Finn said earlier in the episode, or if they dated at one point, though I'm more inclined to lean toward it being the latter, or something a bit more complex than that. After she tells the spirit that she's ready to go back now, he pushes back, asking if she really is. I take this as her needing to let go of whatever she had going on with him and leading her own life. It seems like the only reason she was able to actually summon him this time was because she had let go of him and enjoyed her time with and opened her heart to Finn, because after whatever they had going on, HW seemingly closed her heart to everything in pursuit of her magic and or hunting, or at least something to that effect. After HW gets semi-rejected by the spirit, Finn finally confesses to her, with a last nudge from Jake, who was smiling his ass off in support of his little brother, which I love. This is where it's shown that the spirit challenged if she was ready to return because she had her own feelings she was hiding from Finn, and then kisses him. After the kiss, they actually don't get together, opting for something more than friends but not quite in a relationship that's also allowed to air on CN. If the show would have gone on for a little while longer, I think these two would have ended up in a real relationship, and we would have gotten a real name for Huntress Wizard instead of just an occupation, because it comes off like Huntress Wizard had some stuff to work through with getting over her past situation, and Finn still had some loose ends to tie up with Phoebe. We know that they are together in the second episode of Fiona and Cake, as well as it being heavily implied that the person Farmworld Finn had kids with was Farmworld Huntress Wizard, and that's on top of Hunter, the gender-bent Huntress Wizard, getting with Fiona at the end of season 1 of Fiona and Cake. These two end up together. It just wasn't fully explored in the main run of the show. I love it for what it is, but I wish we got more of it. What I appreciate about this episode is how it more or less provided a conclusion to Finn's arc of romance. The conclusion doesn't end up with him in a relationship quite yet, but that's because he isn't quite ready to be in one, and the person who he will end up with is still going through her own biz before she can fully open up to being with him, but she has opened her heart to him. We see them later on and they're closer than ever, with Huntress Wizard being able to read Finn like a book and putting her life on the line to help him get over his hangups over Fern. While she jokes that he's madly in love with her, those feelings are very much so mutual. I think it's interesting that Finn was pursuing princesses the whole show, but ended up with a lady who lives in the forest with no royal background. To close this out, I want to say that this video was for me to familiarize myself with talking about romance plots and shows, especially those in Adventure Time, because there's so many good and bad romance sub and main plots and shows that I really like Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, and most infamously Regular Show. I'll probably talk about some romance anime too at some point, since when it's done right, that is my favorite genre of anime and manga. Also, I have to mention that crossover Hall of Egress and then Flute Spell is an awesome 3-episode run that Adventure Time went on that displays why people love this show so much. All of them do great lore and character building, and that is something Adventure Time is loved for. Eventually, I will make a video about all the romantic interests Finn had, and possibly even the other major pairings like Jake and Lady and then Bubbling, but this was me familiarizing myself with looking into romance plots, as well as doing a full episode dissection, which I have not done yet until this point. If more episode breakdowns would interest you, leave it down below. This video is fun. If you like this video, watch another one, and if you like that one, consider subscribing. There's plenty more to come. Have a nice day, and I'll catch you next video. Later.